you have a part of the story. You don't know the whole story. Certainly nobody from the NDEs actually ever asked to meet with any of the board members, as far as I know, one-on-one to ask them any of these questions. So I don't understand how you can make those assumptions that nothing has occurred if no one has inquired. So is that not part of the investigation process?
Well, I would say that the department is going to talk to your department.
Okay.
Right? When it comes to talking to trustees, that's really.
Okay, so as far as I know, we have made an effort to reach out to, I know I'm going to speak for myself. I have made an effort to build a bridge between these two boards since I've been here. I believe in having collaborative relationships with absolutely everyone, even people I don't agree with. And I'm not saying I don't agree with the state board. It's just, it's in my nature to do that. So, like, while this is happening and these things are bubbling up at the state, at no point in time did anybody from the state board reach out to a member of this board, as far as I know, to actually ask if any of these are valid, or what any of these complaints that you're getting are based in reality, or if any protocols were followed, or I don't know, I feel like that would have been a step.
So can I jump in? So in my role and now as my current role, so the protocol is because the state board has requested for NDE to do the investigation. So formal questions go to Superintendent Jara, and in those formal requests for information, to gather information, to ask those questions. Each time the president of the board is always included in the communications and even in the responses.
Right, it's just a board-to-board conversation.
I realize that, but they have requested that NDE do that part in asking those questions, and so the inclusion of board members is that President Ortiz, the president of the state board, is always included in the communications, yes. And so is the president of the board of trustees. So.
And we do receive those. When you submit a list of questions and our staff answers it, but the full board is made aware of the fact that we are responding to your questions. So it's not, we are aware that this correspondence is. I guess for me, if a member of public were coming to complain about the state board, for instance, to me, and I had a relationship with a state board member, I would say, hey, what's going on, or something. Luke. Oh, I said you were reading.
So as part of those questions that we asked, especially, a lot of the questions especially in the very beginning, and some that I'm just going to give you one example. Some of those questions were to ask, are these true? Because some of them, for example, one of the things that came to the state board was that that principals were hiring subs as a practice to save money. And so we asked the Clark County School District to investigate that and asked if there was any formal investigations, or if anybody had ever been disciplined for this practice. Is that a practice? And that result was shared back out to the state board to say, yeah, no, these things are not happening, so that they can just move on from there and say, okay, that's not true.
So when it comes to this list of items that you have stated at some point that you feel that the district is not in compliance with, when it comes to these items, which one of these items did you reach that you feel that you investigated fully, and that you still found that there either wasn't a practice or policy that dictated the terms of this? I know the 8515, so let's put that aside, but the other things that are in this list, and you don't have to level, and you're getting some testimony, and your testimony, it seems like you're taking that as gospel in some instances and saying that we're not. So walk me through that investigation process. How do you investigate these specific issues before proceeding? Is there like a methodology or something that you?
So I have never said that the district is not in compliance. All my slides say, areas of concern, et cetera. So, and those are items that have been brought to the board has asked for us to inquire about.
Okay, so you inquire about them, you inquire about these specific I'm just trying to picture the investigation part. So you say, hey, somebody from this school is saying such and such. How does that investigation, what does it look like? Do you get the inquiry at the state board and then you inquire, is that like a process or? I don't know. Do you understand what?
Yes, I do. I'm seems to be my job. So what she's asking, like, for example, when we are looking at the law, there are certain things that we have to provide through central services. But anyway, and one of them is IT, right? So when someone comes and says to you, we are not following the law because we are not allowing a school or a few schools to utilize a software because it was not approved through the district to be utilized. And we're in charge of IT, but yet it seems like the State Board of Ed is saying that, no, they should be allowed to utilize software instead of looking at the law the same way that the district is looking at.
I mean, that goes back to all the definitions that we talked.
Sure. So the Department of Education has the right to interpret those laws.
Okay, and so even if IT is defined in NRS, is what she's asking, I think, I'm hoping I'm getting it right.
So, yeah, so I see where you're going with this, and so all of this has been communicated via email, and so I would request it from CCSD leadership, so you can see both sides of that conversation.
So that's how you're investigating. So see, this is her question.
So
So what you're doing is
and-
whenever these types of issues come up,
Yes.
you go directly to our leadership and you ask for specific things, and then you share your interpretation versus what we're doing. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Or
but the conversation goes both ways. So the conversation can go back both ways because, so let's just say that you want an interpretation of something. You can ask the Department of Education for an interpretation on something. And if it's, yes, exactly.
it was for direct supervision, remember Luke asked me.
But in that case, that was something that clearly had to go through the regulation process to seek a definition for that. But conversation can go both ways, and has gone both ways. And so that's why I'm like, okay, but in each time, the Board of Trustees are copied on these two definitions.
We have the responses. So I guess the question is, what happens when you are interpreting a definition? And I've seen the response that technology doesn't include something that it absolutely does. That's my question, is there is a response that I've seen the response that says that the Department of Education doesn't think data dashboards fall under technology. That's actually in a response from them. However, I mean, as somebody who makes data dashboards for a living and works in IT, fundamentally disagree with that. So what happens in those instances? How are we supposed to address this disconnect if we can't even agree on this very basic understanding?
Yeah, so there is more to that response and I don't know if everyone is familiar with that response, but there is a lot more to that response.
Okay, so are data dashboards part of technology?
So it's all in that response.
So here's where, I think the disconnect is that even though we're receiving the responses, we may not understand what exactly, is our next step. It's not that we don't understand the response, we
Right,
do, we
right.
get it, we can read, I mean, that's my assumption. And, but it's that next step. So when we receive that response, if we disagree or we agree, what is that next step?
Great question. If we see this response and we think that it is not a correct response and we would like to have a conversation about that disconnect, what would that look like?
Yeah,
Put that in writing, because we also, like you, consult with our legal team.
and so it could be more collaborative rather than, okay, so this is what the state board says, we don't agree with it, so we're moving forward. Instead of doing that, we can say, okay, we don't agree with this, this is our interpretation, and this is the reason why. So for example, with data dashboards, if it's not considered a part of IT, our IT folks fall under central office. So if a school decides to have a different data dashboard, they decide they have whomever they want. I don't care, they could even have me. So they have me, but there's something that goes wrong and it goes out to the other schools that do not have the same data dashboard thing that is in this school. And it creates an issue. We don't know at the central office what this data thing is. So now we have to go out, find out what it is, and it creates an issue. So I'm just curious, in this process, is there a way that, the district, I mean, I know we have, an interesting way of, approving curriculum. But is it the same? Is it, and this is probably something I should ask the superintendent, but is it the same for everything, you know? I mean, because that's the thing. We see it as part of these things that we have to, under the law, pay for, take care of, maintain, and yet it seems optional to you guys. I guess that's my thought on it, right?
Well, I think what Lisa says basically is that it undercuts the law based off the definitions that you guys are giving us. And I think what a big concern of